Mr. Walding, can we ask that you turn your camera on? Thank you.
Good morning. I call this hearing to order. Without objection, the chair is authorized to declare a recess at any time. I'd like to begin by noting some important requirements. Standing House and committee rules will continue to apply during hybrid proceedings. All members are reminded that they're expected to adhere to these rules, including decorum. House regulations require members to be visible through a video connection throughout the proceeding. So please keep your cameras on. Also, please remember to remain muted until you're recognized to minimize background noise. In the event a member encounters technical issues that prevent them from being recognized for their questioning, I'll move on to the next available member of the same party, and I'll recognize that member at the next appropriate time slot, provided that they've returned to the proceeding. All right. Oh, yeah, thanks. American entrepreneurs are nearly always looking to expand their businesses. Whether it's hiring new workers, offering new products, or opening new locations, small business owners always have an eye on growth. In recent years, increased globalization and digital adoption have led many small businesses to expand their offerings to international markets. Approximately 166,384 small businesses in the United States currently export, accounting for about 26% of all U.S. exports and $341 billion in export sales. However, small business exporters represent only 3% of the total U.S. small employer firms. With 96% of all consumers and two-thirds of the world's purchasing power residing beyond U.S. borders, increased exporting has the potential to boost the small business economy. Recognizing this, the Small Business Administration created the Office of International Trade in 2010. OIT works in cooperation with other federal agencies and public and private sector groups to encourage small business exports and provide small business export assistance. Small firms are often discouraged from selling their products overseas due to the complex exporting process, the capital required to fill foreign orders, and the expertise necessary to follow international rules and regulations. These unique challenges spurred Congress to create a 3-year State Trade and Export Promotion Pilot Grant Initiative in 2010. In 2015, Congress authorized the program through 2020 and renamed it the State Trade Expansion Program, otherwise known as STEP. STEP provides small firms with the knowledge and support they need to expand into new markets and export their products abroad. The program awards matching funds to states and territories for participation in trade missions, international marketing efforts, workshops, export trade show exhibits, and other promotional activities. Over the years, these initiatives have helped thousands of small businesses overcome the barriers that stop many firms from participating in the international marketplace. In fiscal year 2021, SBA supported $832 million in export sales from STEP and assisted over 3,400 small businesses. Last Congress, the House passed H.R. 6133, the STEP Improvement Act of 2020, which would have reauthorized STEP for 4 fiscal years, increased grant spending flexibility, and made a range of additional improvements. The committee plans to introduce similar legislation this Congress. As we prepare for STEP reauthorization, we must look closely at what's working well in the program and identify areas for improvement. Improving operations and efficiency within STEP will help American entrepreneurs break into exporting and boost the overall economy. I look forward to hearing from our witnesses about their experience with STEP and the actions Congress and SBA can take to ensure the program helps as many small businesses as possible. I'd now like to yield to the ranking member, Mr. Muser, for his opening statement.
Thank you, Chairwoman Davids, very much, and thank you certainly to all of our witnesses for attending with us, both live and on video. Small businesses are job creators, innovators, and drivers of the United States economy. They also export high-quality products which showcase American manufacturing, agriculture, and energy across the globe. According to the SBA, small businesses comprise 96% of all exporters in the U.S. In my home state of Pennsylvania, the U.S. Census Bureau found that over 88% of the state's exporters are small firms, which resulted in $12.5 billion in exported products in 2019. The SBA's Office of International Trade assists small businesses in export promotion activities through management and training programs and the State Trade Expansion Program grants, the STEP grants. The STEP program partners with states and territories to increase the number of small businesses that export, increase the value of exports by small businesses, and increase the number of small businesses exploring significant new trade opportunities. Many states use STEP towards or awards to facilitate foreign trade missions and trade show exhibitions or to provide consulting, marketing, and website services. Pennsylvania has received several STEP awards since the program's inception and has effectively used the STEP funds for its financial assistance plan, the Global Access Program, which is GAP, and which GAP is designed to be flexible and allow companies to use STEP funds to their best advantage. It's resulted in quite a numerous number of success stories. Gilson Snow, for example, a premium snowboard and ski design and manufacturing company located just outside of my district in Winfield, Pennsylvania, was started by a middle school science teacher and his class. The company was awarded GAP funds for digital marketing on Facebook and Instagram, which resulted in sales totaling nearly $20,000 during the campaign and increased brand awareness in Australia and New Zealand markets. Another example is Pepro, LLC, out of Oil City, Pennsylvania. Pepro, LLC is a veteran-owned small business that specializes in mobile and remote communication shelters, which ensures communications are not interrupted during emergencies or natural disasters. They use GAP funding to cover costs associated with attending the International Wireless Communications Expo in Las Vegas. Their president, Kelly Lander, stated, "GAP funding has been a great benefit to us. Our biggest sales effort for international business is the IWCE trade show. GAP funding pays for our booth space, which is our largest expense. This funding was especially helpful during 2021 in dealing with challenges related to COVID." So clearly a great return on investment in this program. Small businesses face many barriers to exporting, including limited capacity, resources, access to capital. Unfortunately, the pandemic created additional challenges and resulted in many canceled trade shows, missions, and travel, which hindered the ability of STEP awardees to conduct activities. Further, economic headwinds very much caused, many would argue, by the Biden administration policies have hindered small business operations, including exporting. A recent survey from Goldman Sachs, 10,000 small businesses, found that 80% of small businesses say broader economic trends such as inflation, supply chain issues, and workforce challenges are having a negative impact on their business. Last week, inflation soared to nearly a 41-year record high. As prices skyrocketed month after month, it is not surprising that the Job Creators Network polling found that 72% of small businesses did not believe that the Biden administration policies were doing enough to combat inflation. This is a top problem for small business owners. Small businesses in my district tell me every day that inflation is forcing them to raise prices, modify operations, and is hindering their ability to plan for the future and certainly to invest in inventory and other capital investments. I appreciate very much the chairwoman for calling this important hearing on the STEP program today, and I look forward to working together to increase small business exports and empowering innovators with the tools they need to reach new markets. However, if we truly want to help small business, we must reduce regulations that slow domestic production. We must make our small businesses and large businesses in the U.S. the most competitive in the world. We need to adamantly oppose any tax increases and make the 2017 tax cuts permanent, which will have great positive effect and predictability for small businesses. And we also need to end much of the excessive spending that has attributed to soaring inflation. So I will end by just being clear. Continued reckless inflationary spending in Washington, increasing taxes and regulations will not support small businesses in their efforts to expand and export. I yield back, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you. The gentleman yields back. I'd like to take a moment to explain how this hearing will proceed. Each witness is going to have 5 minutes to provide a statement, and each committee member will have 5 minutes for questions. Please ensure that your microphone is on when you begin speaking so that everyone can hear you, and make sure that you return to mute when you're finished. With that, I'd like to introduce our witnesses. Our first witness is Ms. Mary Waters. Since 2015, Mrs. Waters has served as Deputy Commissioner for International Trade for the Georgia Department of Economic Development. Under her leadership, Georgia rejoined STEP after a multi-year absence, and her work has helped Georgia become a top 10 exporting state for the first time in 2020. Mrs. Waters is also currently serving as President of the State International Development Organization, Inc., SIDO, the premier U.S. organization dedicated to supporting state international trade agencies and state development programs. Welcome, Ms. Waters. Our second witness is Mr. William Speer. Mr. Speer is the manager of the New Jersey Office of Export Promotion and director of New Jersey STEP, both of which are part of the New Jersey Department of State. He has worked for the state for more than 23 years and graduated with an Associate's of Applied Sciences degree from Union County College and a Bachelor's of Science in Business Administration from St. Elizabeth University. Welcome, Mr. Speer. I got tongue-tied because I'm an associate. I have an associate's degree too. Got excited about it. Our third witness is Mr. Luther Tooks. Mr. Tooks is the CEO of Pyramid Foods, LLC. Mr. Tooks' company produces Pitmaster LT's barbecue sauces and rubs, which he's perfected over the course of 3 decades. Mr. Tooks is a proud U.S. Army veteran and Kansas City barbecue pitmaster. Mr. Tooks utilized STEP to export his products, which since 2020 have been available in the U.S., Canada, Europe, and the Middle East. Welcome, Mr. Tooks. I'll now yield to the ranking member, Mr. Muser, to introduce our final witness.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Our next witness is Mr. Devin Walding. Mr. Walding is the Vice President of Sales at Radius Corporation, which is located in my district in Kutztown, Pennsylvania. He is responsible for the company's international growth strategy, including opening new markets and increasing brand awareness and revenue. Radius Corporation was founded in 1983 and is a second-generation family-owned and woman-led company. Radius Corporation manufactures sustainable oral health care products here in the United States, including toothbrushes, toothpaste, floss, and even pet care products. Through Pennsylvania's export program, the company received 3 STEP-funded Global Access Program awards in recent years to help offset the costs of their initiatives in Italy, Russia, and Germany. Radius has received countless awards for their innovation and contributions to export promotion. In 2015, they received the Governor's Export Impact Award, and in 2016, they received the President's E Award, which is the highest recognition an American company can receive for making a significant contribution to the expansion of the United States exports. Most recently, the SBA announced Radius Corporation as the Eastern Pennsylvania Export of the Year for 2020. They have also received awards from Martha Stewart, AskADentist.com, Baby Maternity Magazine, Family Choice, and many others for their design, sustainability, and high-quality products. It is a great honor to represent small businesses like Radius Corporation who are driving innovation, manufacturing high-quality American-made products, and making the world a better place. Mr. Walding, I would like to welcome you to the subcommittee today. We all look forward to hearing more about ways we can support small businesses and their export ventures. And thank you to all the witnesses for joining us, and I yield back.
Thank you. The gentleman yields back. And again, thank you all for being here. And I will start off by recognizing Mrs. Waters for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. Chairwoman Davids, Ranking Member Muser, and members of the subcommittee, thank you for the opportunity to testify this morning. Representative Bordeaux, it's a pleasure to see you online this morning as well. Good to be here from Georgia. In my role as the Deputy Commissioner for International Trade with the Georgia Department of Economic Development, I oversee the state's international trade program and lead a global team focused on helping Georgia companies grow through exporting. More than 80% of the exporters that we serve are businesses with fewer than 100 employees. I'm also the current president of the State International Development Organizations, or SIDO, a nonpartisan organization comprised of state international trade offices. I want to thank the committee for your commitment to small business exporters and to the State Trade Expansion Program. STEP is a valuable resource for our businesses in Georgia and a key program in our agency's ongoing efforts to help companies increase their exports. Exporting is an important avenue of growth for small businesses and for the U.S. economy as a whole. Diversification of sales helps businesses mitigate risk, become more resilient, and globally competitive. In Georgia, total trade with the world exceeded $166 billion last year, and that includes more than $42 billion in exports. However, of the more than 1 million small businesses in Georgia, the U.S. Department of Commerce estimates that fewer than 11,000 Georgia companies exported in 2019. The mission of CITO's member states is to help small businesses begin exporting and expand to new markets. And STEP is a vital component of our shared mission and provides companies with the confidence and support to start the export process. I'd like to provide a brief overview of STEP in Georgia. Georgia was an early participant in the STEP program in 2011 and 2012, but we stepped away in 2013 after our application was denied. Due to the financial impact of the pandemic on our small businesses, we wanted to expand our trade services to include financial assistance awards, and we applied for a STEP grant in 2020. Georgia was fortunate to receive $162,488 in Step 9 base year funding, and the response from our small businesses has really been tremendous. To date, STEP funds have assisted 124 small businesses, including 23 new to export firms, and exporters have already reported more than $1.69 million in sales for a return on investment of 10.4 to 1 during the initial grant performance period. We use STEP funds to help companies participate in trade shows, travel to meet new customers in foreign markets, participate in U.S. commercial service programs, and other approved activities. And I'd like to highlight a couple of great success stories. Take, for example, a minority-owned agribusiness company using $1,725 in STEP funds to travel to a trade show in the Middle East. As a result of participation, this company reported more than $500,000 in export sales to 3 new markets. A woman-owned business in Georgia's booming fintech industry used $6,000 in STEP funds to participate in 2 trade shows during 2021. As a result, that company has expanded sales of more than $100,000 to 5 European markets. Or take, for example, a minority-owned, new-to-export firm using STEP funds to travel to a trade event in South Africa that is now negotiating potential contracts with 2 new customers. These are just a few examples of how STEP helps our local businesses compete in the global economy. And it's important to note that small business export success is a shared mission with our federal partners. STEP serves as a nexus program that connects state and federal trade agencies to develop a more coordinated assistance plan for exports. At CITO, we're committed to working closely with the SBA and Congress to continue to strengthen the STEP program. Reauthorization is critical to supporting greater U.S. exports in the years to come. And before I conclude, I want to provide a few recommendations on how we can continue to strengthen the program. More details are included in my written testimony. First, measure ROI by long-term outcomes and by taking all components of the trade process into account. Achieving an export sale, especially for new-to-export firms, involves several steps and can take years, depending on the industry. In determining ROI, it is very difficult to separate one component from another because all are part of the reasons for a company's success. Second, reducing the administrative burden. This includes the application process, quarterly reporting requirements, as well as the A-STEP system. And third, increasing funding to $30 million or more. Increased funding will allow grantees to support more trade activities and increase the value of financial awards direct to small businesses, which achieves the primary objectives of STEP. I want to thank the committee again for your support and leadership, as well as SBA's Office of International Trade for their partnership. We strongly support the reauthorization and full funding of the STEP grant program and look forward to working together on that process. Thank you again. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you. Mr. Speer, you are now recognized for 5 minutes. Mr. Speer, I believe you might be muted. No, we still can't hear you. Nope.
Member of the Committee on Appropriations or their respective designees shall not be subject to amendment except as provided by.
Okay, Mr. Speer, we'll come back to you after the technical team will help you. Mr. Tooks, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Oh. Can you hear me?
We can.
Oh, okay, thank you. Well, thanks for allowing me the opportunity to serve as a witness, and it's an honor and pleasure to visit with you virtually, Congresswoman David. My name is Luther Tooks, and I'm the owner and CEO of Pyramid Food, a small company based in Shawnee, Kansas, and we've been in operation since 2016. As you said earlier, our core business is in the co-packing and distribution of Pitmaster LT's barbecue sauces and rubs and seasonings. We began communicating with Lou Chang and the Kansas Department of Commerce in 2018, shortly after becoming interested in exploring the exportation of our products. Reached out to Lou, and he scheduled an introductory meeting with me in his office. And during that meeting, he gave me a comprehensive overview of the STEP grant program and how it could be used as a resource to help us succeed in exporting our products. We decided in 2018 to embark on a mission to export our products to Canada, and through the STEP program, more specifically the KitMap grant program, we were able to get assistance through a grant to get our labels redesigned, reformatted, and get our labels translated to Canadian French as well as English, and have our marketing brochures also interpreted into Canadian French. And that allowed us to begin exporting to Canada in 2019. We decided in 2021 to embark on another mission to export our barbecue products to Mexico. And again, working with Lou, it was determined that the STEP KitMap program, once again, would offer the grant assistance we needed to successfully get our products exported to Mexico. We consequently did apply and received a grant to help get our marketing brochure and labels again translated into Spanish this time. And in addition, we were able to get our labels properly formatted to meet the requirements for sale in Mexico. And that was a big challenge. But as a result of that assistance, both instances, we were able to distribute our products into Mexico and Canada, and our sales are increasing from year to year. We would not have been successful without the education and the financial support received through the Kansas Department of Commerce and the STEP program, and we're grateful for those two opportunities.
Thank you, Mr. Tooks, and we'll come back to you as well. I know I will, because we got to talk about barbecue. Mr. Speer?
Yes, thank you so much. How's that?
All right, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman Davids, Ranking Member Muser, and to all of the members of the subcommittee for having the opportunity to testify before you today. And Chairman, compliments on your associate's degree. It works a big deal here in New Jersey. Further, allow me to specifically acknowledge Congressman Andy Kim of the 3rd Congressional District of New Jersey and his work on the subcommittee. And also thank you, subcommittee, for your continued support of small exporters and of the STEP program. It is a pleasure to share the importance of both of those here in New Jersey. My name is William Speer. I'm the manager of the Office of Export Promotion and the director of the State Trade Expansion Program. Our office and the program are in the New Jersey Business Action Center under the leadership of Executive Director Melanie Willoughby. We are housed in the New Jersey Department of State, led by Secretary of State Tahisha Way, and on behalf of Governor Phil Murphy, whose administration encourages New Jersey-based businesses to export globally, we are pleased to highlight how your efforts strengthen our commitment. I'd like to start with 3 numbers, which I'll come back to. Those numbers are 4.6 million, 185 million, and 527. And now about the state. We're the 4th smallest state in the country. However, we have the 9th largest gross domestic product. In 2021, New Jersey exports were 49.4 billion, up 30%. And as a result of that, we are the 10th largest exporting state. Small companies and small businesses in New Jersey make up the majority of exporters. We are 6th in the country in the number of small and medium-sized exporters. We're 7th in the amount of exports from those companies, and we're 5th in the percentage of small and medium-sized exporters. And please note, those data are from U.S. Census Bureau and the Bureau of Economic Analysis. Given the significant presence of small businesses in New Jersey, which SBA reports makes up 99.6% of all businesses in our state, any resource, program, and asset that supports those businesses are important to us. SBA's STEP program established its importance with our office a long time ago. We see the value of the STEP program every day. We watch it assist small exporting companies to increase and diversify their revenues, pay higher wages, and create and retain jobs. However, New Jersey has not always had the type of success that we're being asked to talk about today. In the first years of our participation, we had a very, very steep learning curve as a granting entity. We were a great exporter, but we were learning what it meant to be a granting entity. We built our program on 2 core principles: be the stewards of the federal money and to treat the money as if it was your state's. Both of those were instilled by the early SBA STEP leadership. And from the beginning, we looked to support the best small companies we could find. As a result, the program now begins to reflect those activities. And now I'd like to come back to those numbers I first shared. From 2017 to 2022, the state of New Jersey has received 4.6 million of SBA awards. 185 million of actual export sales of US made goods and services have directly resulted from companies receiving those awards. 527 New Jersey jobs have directly come from either being created or retained by those STEP awards. And given that we still have 2 grant programs open, those numbers are subject to increase, of which we're very, very pleased. However, the numbers are really only a bit of a secondary point with regards to the measurement. The real measurement is in the companies themselves, and these 3 quotes. NJ STEP is an excellent program that has allowed us to meet with foreign food buyers. And that is from a socially and economically disadvantaged new to export firm. NJ STEP provided strong support for our firm's export activity and helped to increase international sales. That from a woman-owned exporting firm. And without NJ STEP, our firm would not be in business today. Support from the program helped to create international marketing material, paid for booths, and helped market our brands. We create jobs from STEP, and that is from a socially and economically disadvantaged woman-owned business, new to export. We have many other things that we could talk about, but allow me to close with the confirmation of our partnership with SBA to continue to grow the program for the benefit of all of its stakeholders. Thank you so much, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Speer. Mr. Walding, you're now recognized for 5 minutes.
Good morning, and thank you to the subcommittee for allowing me to testify today. So first, I'll start off with a little bit more detailed introduction on Radius, the organization. So Radius is a 2nd-generation family-run oral care manufacturer based in Kutztown, Pennsylvania. For over 39, almost 40 years, we've been trusted to make eco-friendly, natural, and innovative oral care products for the whole family, including toothbrushes, toothpastes, floss, and travel accessories. And actually, if you've never seen our products, they're pretty unique. And so much that set us apart back in the early 80s was an ergonomically right-handed toothbrush. But specifically with our landfill biodegradable handles, vegetable-based bristles, replaceable toothbrush head technology, and certified organic toothpaste, we continue to redefine what should be the conventional oral care offering, even now for your pets. We're proud to be supporting sustainable U.S. jobs in addition to being certified WENC, which is Women's Business Enterprise National Council member, and WOSB being Women-Owned Small Business. As earlier mentioned, we're proud to be the recipient of the President's E Award for Exports in 2015, recognizing our significant contribution to the expansion of U.S. exports. We currently have 30 staff members and have exported to as many as 40 different countries. As much as 25% of our business at any given time can be directly attributed to international sales. And we were also the two-time recipients of the PPP loans, the first in 2020 and the second in 2021. Just a little bit about myself. So my name is Devin Walding, and I'm the VP of Sales here at Radius. I have 3 citizenships, including being American, Canadian, and Australian. I've lived, worked, and studied in all 3 countries. The majority of my career has been working in international sales, including time spent as a distributor in Australia for an American firm. In 2021, I took over global sales responsibilities at Radius, and I'm currently studying, albeit a bit of a pause during the pandemic, for my MBA at the University of Wisconsin. And I'm proud to work for a family-run, made-in-America business located in Kutztown, Pennsylvania. Specifically about the STEP program. So if it's not clear, Radius is a small company with limited resources. And we also have a very unique value proposition in terms of what we offer in our oral care portfolio of products. Selling our product requires effort and time, be it domestically or internationally. We are not simply a me-too product where somebody can just pick it up and resell it. We're constantly pursuing international expansion opportunities via both digital and physical formats, online and in person. We engage with both state and federal resources, including the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development, in addition to the U.S. Commercial Service. These assets continue to prove invaluable as we seek expertise and expert opinion where we cannot always afford it ourselves. This access and support allows us to compete in an increasingly competitive global marketplace while also promoting made in the USA product and providing quality local jobs. The STEP program has enabled us, Radius, to participate in channels that we'd otherwise struggle or simply not be able to afford. The sheer availability of these grants allows us to start a dialogue around what opportunities would provide the best return on investment for our brand and ultimately made in America products. Finding the funds to participate in many of these initiatives is often a roadblock that limits our ability to participate, thus keeping us off the global stage and constricting potential new sales. While tracking the material impact of these investments can sometimes take years to confirm, our ability to invest in sales programs through the flexibility of the program keeps us agile enough to remain competitive. Most recently, the Cosmic Trade Show in Bologna, Italy, had over 220,000 attendees with 144 countries of origin. We received inquiries from 13 separate countries. The impact of show attendance cannot be understated. We sell a physical product, and the ability to showcase Radius in person could be the material difference between securing new business or not. Trade shows, among many other STEP-approved programs, accelerates our go-to-market strategies, increases our product visibility, and adds credibility to our brand. We've been called the best oral care company you've never heard of, and we're committed to changing that with the assistance of the STEP. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walding, and thank you to all of our witnesses. We appreciate you taking the time and sharing your experiences with us. So we'll start. I'm going to begin by recognizing myself for 5 minutes. I always think it's funny when I recognize myself. I don't know why. So I often say that entrepreneurship is baked into the DNA of the Kansas 3rd Congressional District. And I say that because it's true. But barbecue is definitely the lifeblood of Kansas City, and our community is extremely proud of the small businesses that produce our world-famous cuisine, from sauces to dry rub and everything in between, resulting in slow-smoked perfection, as we call it. Which is why I'm so thrilled to have Mr. Tooks of Pyramid Foods here today with us to speak about his experience in entering the STEP program from Shawnee, Kansas. And through exporting, Mr. Tooks and Pyramid Foods are able to spread the love of a good dry rub and sweet Kansas City barbecue sauce far and wide. Exporting presents certainly an incredible opportunity for small businesses to expand their customer base and increase sales, but the processing these businesses must go through the processes that these businesses have to go through to become an exporter are certainly complex and can be intimidating, which we heard a bit about already. But Mr. Tooks, I am curious if you could share with us what interested you in exporting your products, and what were some of the immediate challenges that you faced, and also curious how you got connected with the STEP program there in Kansas to help you navigate that process.
Okay, sorry, it took a second to unmute myself.
No problem. Go ahead.
I got interested in exporting our products through having met with some representatives from the World Trade Center, the Food Export Association, and a couple of meetings, and got invited to participate in some foreign trade missions. And in doing that process, I had the opportunity to present our products to buyers from all over the world, really. And as a result of those meetings, I learned that exporting was a tough business. I mean, it's tough enough trying to sell your products in the U.S., but trying to sell to foreign markets is a lot more challenging in that you've got pricing to deal with, and you've got regulations to get your products out of the U.S. into these countries, go into customs, and just a lot of regulations to deal with. But fortunately, there are organizations around to help you get through that. World Trade Center, Kansas Department of Commerce, Food Export Association. And so what I decided to do was meet with Wu Chang, representing the Kansas Department of Commerce, to help me navigate through getting our products properly packaged, labeled to meet the requirements of a couple of countries to start out with. Canada, what we learned in the early stages of exportation was it was just that we start out with Canada because they imported a lot more American-made products than anybody else, and that's where we started out with. And so what we learned in the process was that you needed to also partner with members of the partner with Canadians, and that you needed someone to help navigate through all of the regulations. And so we found someone to help with that, and then help get our labels translated into both English. Well, they were already in English, but to be dual label to be translated in Canadian French, which we learned was different than French and France.
Mm-hmm.
We went through all the design work, and then we had to make sure that the ingredients were properly formatted. And we had to make sure that our marketing materials that we had to share with our business partners in Canada, namely the distributors, were able to use those materials to their customers. Well, STEP program was great for helping with that, because we were able to apply for grants to help with the translation, the label redesigns, and the printing of the labels. And
thank you.
Without that, we never got off to it.
Mr. Tooks, thanks so much. My time has actually expired, but I look forward to talking to you more. I'll come visit you when we're all back in the district. With that, I will turn ranking member. Okay, yeah. I'll yield to the ranking member for 5 minutes.
Well, thank you, Madam Chairwoman, and thank you, Mr. Tooks, for your testimony. And Madam Chairwoman, I certainly hope that we could get some of that great barbecue perhaps exported here. I won't misstate exactly how you folks express yourself when it comes to your very special barbecue, but I will help you eat it. So hopefully Mr. Tooks can oblige. Well, thank you all for your testimony. I'm going to go to Mr. Walding, since he's from the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and in my district. Mr. Walding, excellent to hear about your company, your growth. Being based there as a rural manufacturer is really special. So congratulations. Now, could you elaborate a little bit more on how the awards of our STEP program, and in Pennsylvania known as the GAP Awards, have specifically helped you reach new foreign and international markets?
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity to speak again, and apologize if I wasn't coming in clear earlier. So we're a product are consumable, all right, and certainly oral care over the past decade especially has become increasingly competitive. And so as we establish ourselves, we've got a lot of equity here in the US, but sometimes our ability to translate those made in America, that sustainable, with premium characteristics that certainly set us apart and really make us, what should be the conventional oral care offering in some international markets can be tough. And so specifically in going to trade shows or trade missions or participating in these types of events, it does allow us not only to, in one single, let's call it 2 or 3 days, what would take probably months and months of these types of interactions, right, on Zoom or on Microsoft Teams or digitally or email, you can achieve in the matter of 5 or 10 minutes. There's just such a material impact. I mean, I'm not a SaaS, right? I don't sell a service. I sell a product. And we need to export that to these destinations, and go through distribution, which means there's a lot, similar to Mr. Tooks, there's a lot that goes on between when we make that toothbrush in Pennsylvania to when it arrives in country, then goes through distribution, then hits that retail shelf. So these types of foreign trade missions are absolutely critical to not only the participation and the awareness of our brand, securing new potential, but also to getting material feedback on whether or not those markets are in fact where we should be spending our time, be it the radius time or the assets that we have allocated towards that. So making sure that we can confidently use what materials and resources we have is equally as important as the context that we make, just to make sure that we are as effective using the tools and the limited tools that we have.
Great, thanks. Yeah, I do have some experience in international sales and entering new markets, so I can understand the challenges, and I'm glad that this STEP program, though, it provides at least the catalyst and some resources to help you be successful. Let's just talk about competitiveness as a whole quickly. The price index inflation is at a 41-year high. How has this impacted your export strategy and operations? And as well, small business optimism has declined for a number of months now. Expectations for better business conditions are really at an all-time low since early 80s. Given the current inflation levels and small business climate, how would tax increases, so I want to ask you about that as well, tax increases affect your operations, affect your margins, and affect your ability to be very competitive and the number of people that you continue to hire?
Great questions. And I think I apologize who mentioned it earlier, but predictability is a big one for us, right? As a small manufacturer and trying to keep steady, consistent jobs in rural Pennsylvania. And we delivered a price increase earlier this year, the most significant in decades for us as an organization, as we've tried to keep our products competitive and our pricing relatively static. And we no longer could afford to remain in business if we do that. And whether a premium product or more of a commoditized product, I think we all feel the same pressure on our margins and our ability to sustain ourselves in the long term. And so specifically things like, given the inflationary environment, we're making adjustments ourselves, certainly, but with the best interest for keeping us and our longevity front and center. Certainly any tax reform or implications to us would certainly be of material impact to sustaining ourselves and our profitability and to growing our business.
All right, thank you. I will yield back, Madam Chair, and I look forward to the invitation to lunch.
Noted. The gentleman yields back. The chair will now recognize Congresswoman Bordeaux from Georgia for 5 minutes.
Thank you so much, Chairwoman Davids, for holding today's hearing, and thank you, Ranking Member Muser. I want to also thank our witnesses, and especially Ms. Waters, my fellow Georgian, for joining us today. Sorry I can't be there in person, but I had a scheduling conflict. But did want to talk with you for a few minutes about international trade in Georgia and how you've used the STEP program. In your testimony, you talk about how Georgia participated in STEP 2011 to 2012, then had an application that was denied in 2013, so it was out of the program for a while, and then very pleased to see we're back in it in 2020 and 2021. So as a state that's seen significant economic growth and benefits from trade, both with and without participation in STEP, can you speak to the benefits of STEP and how it's helped enhance Georgia's small businesses' ability to do business overseas over the past 2 years?
Great. Representative Bordeaux, thank you very much for that question. And it is a great question. And I will say that Georgia has a very well-established trade program. Our team has been doing this for the better part of 30 years. And for pretty much the entirety of that time, we've been focused on small businesses. And so we always viewed the STEP program both in its pilot years and now getting back into it in 2020. We've really seen the ability to lean on STEP as one tool in our overall toolkit of how we, on an ongoing basis, support our small business exporters through counseling and referral to resources and market entry, market intelligence, introductions to customers. We really look at our services, if you will, in terms of a spectrum of assistance from a brand new to export company that is just starting to get that little flicker really through to the process of connecting with partners in markets and actually achieving those export sales. And so what the STEP program does allow us to do, we really think of it as an additional service that we can provide to companies because that financial piece is so critically important. I was a trade manager in this team before I went to the private sector, and now I'm back sort of running the international trade team for the department. And the common thread is so many small businesses, they do have really cool, really innovative products, and that passion is there for their businesses and for their products and technologies, and they just need assistance, and they don't necessarily know where to start. And a program like STEP, I think for our businesses, small businesses in Georgia, it's one thing to know that you've got a really well-structured trade program and resources that are there to assist you as the small business, but knowing that there's that financial backing that you can, if you do your homework and you apply and you say, I have been wanting to get to this international trade show for 4 years and I've never had the budget to do it, but I know if I make the commitment now, I'm going to get some or percentage of that money back, and that frees me up to globalize my website, get my labels translated, do more in the international sphere that really can tip the scales for small businesses and take exporting from a priority in a company's focus to being a top priority and really being able to truly get into the international market. That's the value of STEP for our Georgia companies. I will say that the pandemic really was the tipping point for us as a state to get back into the program. And I want to recognize SBA and the improvements they've made to the program over time. It really is a significantly different program now than it was in 2011 when we started out. But being able, as a very adept export development state, to be able to offer direct financial assistance awards to these companies really does make the difference. And every dollar that we can get into the hands of those companies does matter because it frees up a dollar that they can then continue to expand their export sales.
Thank you so much. That's actually really helpful to hear that contrast back and forth. Unfortunately, I'm short on time, but would love to talk with you more just because we have such an international and diverse community in the 7th District. And I know a lot of my immigrant communities have one foot in this country, but one foot in the country that they immigrated from. And I think there might be some interesting opportunities for partnerships with you all for them and to help boost their business. With that, again, welcome to DC. Good to have you here, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Thank you. The gentlewoman yields back. The chair will now recognize Congresswoman Kim, the ranking member on the Subcommittee for Innovation, Entrepreneurship, and Workforce Development, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairwoman Davids. And I would also like to thank my ranking member, Muser, for holding this hearing. And I want to thank our witness, especially Ms. Waters, for joining us in person and other witnesses joining us virtually. We are here to analyze the work of SBA's Office of International Trade and STEP program. I want to let you know that I'm very proud to represent California's 39th Congressional District. I represent the parts of Los Angeles, Orange, and San Bernardino counties, and it is home to San Pedro Bay Port Complex. It does about nearly 25% of the nation's total exports pass through this St. Pedro Port Complex. So I've seen the supply chain crisis very, very closely at home. Unfortunately, supply chain crisis and this issue have been exacerbated by workforce and truck driver shortages, burdensome regulations, which California is known for, and warehouse capacity problems. In my home state of California, we have this onerous legislation, AB 5, that will change the definition of an independent contractor and force truck drivers to comply with onerous licensing requirements. And AB 5 could only lead to more trucking shortages and to the estimated shortage of 80,000 truck drivers nationally. To further compound our supply chain and workforce issues, one of the owners of a logistics company in my district told me for every 5 people they hire, 1 does not show up. They don't show up for work. Workforce shortages are only adding fuel to the fire of inflation. So to paint a picture of that magnitude of the problem, at the end of May, the federal government's job openings and labor turnover survey found that there was a near record of 11.3 million job vacancies across the nation. I want to ask a question to both you, Ms. Waters, and Mr. Spears. We have heard that STEP reporting requirements are more detailed and burdensome than grants from the Department of Commerce and other agencies. So can you give us an overview of how your office manages STEP programs and the reporting requirements?
I'll take a first shot at this. I will say from George's perspective, there is an administrative burden in STEP with respect to the application process as well as quarterly reporting. I think it's worth it because the value is there for the companies. And certainly as a state grantee that's, again, new to the program, we are absolutely willing to make that trade-off because we know the value is there for small businesses. But I think the most effective way to address administrative burden within the STEP grant is to continue to work together in partnership with SBA, Office of International Trade, with this committee, with Congress, to focus in on the core priorities of the program, the core objective of STEP, to get new small businesses into exporting and to help those exporters get to new markets, and to collaboratively focus on concise performance metrics that get to that outcome-driven perspective instead of calculating ROI on a quarterly basis and going really into very specific data that, to my understanding, is not required by Congress on a quarterly basis, because that does take time away from when we could be assisting small businesses in the export process. And with that, I yield my time.
Sure. Mr. Spears, as you respond to my same question that I posed to Ms. Waters, can you suggest how we can ensure that program is meeting its performance metrics while also reducing administrative burden?
Well, yes, let me give you the short answer, yes. And many of the points that have been raised today are absolutely significant. However, in New Jersey, we have taken some steps to kind of reduce that burden already. When we query our companies, we simply ask for actual sales and projected sales. in actual jobs and projected jobs. So that's the minimum that we can get back. I mean, there are other things that we could include that would be indicators, but we've minimized it by minimizing what we ask the companies. And so we've done that with regard to that. And we've actually found, although we have not had as many experiences with other agencies, we actually did back away from applying for another agency's grant earlier in the year because the burden was actually heavier than what we found at SBA.
Sorry, I was like
Thank you.
totally thinking about your question. Thank you.
It's like I'm out
The-
of time. Thank you.
The gentlewoman's time has expired. The chair will now recognize Congressman Garbarino for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairwoman, and thank you to the ranking member for having this hearing. I know, Ms. Waters, you spoke briefly about what you had to deal with and your small businesses with the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. I don't know if you got to say everything you wanted to say regarding how that affected the businesses in your state and the effect on exports.
Yeah, thank you for that question. I will say the conversations that we were having with our small businesses as the pandemic was starting, many of our same small businesses were looking at idle loans, we're looking at PPP financing, and really our grant program started in October of 2020, and when we were able to go back to our exporters and say, we now have this money that we want you to be able to continue to stay focused to the extent possible on export development and international markets. What we absolutely did not want to happen in Georgia was for some of our really great small businesses to lose focus from the importance of international growth. We were asking a lot of our small businesses at a very challenging time, and a lot were understandably focused on making payroll and continuing to sustain themselves during the pandemic. But those companies that were really in a position to maintain themselves and sustain, we did not want them to have to step away from international development in any way. And so being able to follow up with those companies and say, look, for any upgrades that you need to make to your website right now, any kind of new strategy development that you're looking at for international markets, using the pandemic as an opportunity to kind of re-strategize about what exporting will look like in the future. You now have resources through STEP to make some of those changes. We had a lot of companies that were still very eager to be involved in international trade events, and a lot of global events went virtual. And so we had companies that were needing to buy really high quality audio and video equipment to be able to participate virtually with global buyers at these new hybrid or virtual trade events.
So you would say, I don't mean to interrupt, I'm running out of time, but but so you would say that the money, the businesses took advantage of this program, and they have been successful in using it?
Yes, I think that's true, taking into consideration that there continues to be some postponement and cancellation of events through COVID, but by and large, companies did take advantage of the opportunities, yes.
Good. All right. Mrs. Speer, would you agree with that? Did you see the same thing with your companies in your state?
That's correct. We actually saw, it was interesting, the newer to export companies were much more creative in asking about STEP and how it might embrace their international efforts by internationalizing their websites. So yes, overall, but as a nuance, it was the newer to export companies that moved that mark a lot more so than our more experienced exporters.
Okay, so it sounds like in both states, one of the activities that was most popular was internationalizing their websites. What else was popular amongst the small businesses?
For New Jersey,
what else did they use their money on?
For New Jersey, anything that did not require getting into a plane and travel was looked at. So taking your website and using that as the lead entity of your export process. 100%. We had a lot of people do that, but also things as mundane as translating a product catalog into a foreign buyer's language or translating a website, things like that. There were several U.S. commercial service, and U.S. commercial service is kind of like the unsung hero in the background. They took many of their long-standing services and virtualized those so that you didn't have to have a company travel into country to take advantage of what is easily the best service provider in international business, bar none. But their assistance and their entrepreneurialism help companies take advantage of STEP funds as well.
Oh, great. Ms. Waters, anything you want to add about anything else that your businesses you were able to use the money on?
No, I would simply echo what Mr. Speer has just shared.
Okay, I appreciate that. And I've got 8 seconds left, so I yield back. Thank you, Chairwoman.
Thank you. The gentleman yields back. The chair will now recognize Congresswoman Van Dyne, Ranking Member on the Subcommittee for Oversight, Investigations, and Regulations for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and to the Ranking Member for holding this hearing today. Mr. Walding, when you think about all that's going on in the economy right now, labor market issues, 9.1% inflation, supply chain slowdowns, would you say that dealing with these has slowed your ability to grow your export business?
Can you guys hear me? I switched audio. Is that okay?
I can hear you just great. Thank you.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I would say that absolutely. We're seeing softening across both domestic and international markets, and we're doing our best right now to pivot in terms of what are realistic expectations, both in terms of current markets that we currently participate in, but also in terms of where we see growth and where we want to be participating, right? So metering, I think, and kind of we were talking about predictability, just trying to digest what the impact is going to be in 3, 6, 9, 12 months is really kind of where we are as an organization, piecing out what's happening domestically versus what's happening internationally. And I think specifically for us, things like foreign exchange is causing a significant burden as a function of inflation and some other regulatory environments. So yeah, we're taking major steps to kind of course correct or to get some realistic expectations heading over into the next 6 to 12 months.
Thank you. And Mr. Walding, one of the things that the congressional Democrats are discussing right now is a massive reconciliation bill that many would think would include a tax hike on small businesses. How do you think that would affect you in the current climate?
I think that any additional cost pressures that a small business like ours, again, we don't want to lay off, right? We want to expand, but also we got to be cognizant of what we can digest as an organization in terms of sustaining our business over the long term. It's no small feat for any small business to overcome those first couple of years, let alone be kind of innovators and curators going against global giants for almost 40 years. And we anticipate and we expect ourselves to be doing the same for the next 40. An increase in taxes is simply just going to burden our ability to remain competitive and where do we pass that cost on, right? So we're either going to feel it on our bottom line, having to make some tough calls internally, or we pass that on to the consumer. Like I said earlier, we had to do that just by virtue of inflationary environments, making us increasingly less competitive, going against, like I said, some major either contract manufacturers or international players, where we butt up against every day.
I appreciate that answer. I'm going to ask this of the whole panel, starting with Mr. Walding. If you had to identify your top 3 challenges right now, what would they be?
At the moment,
keep in mind we got four witnesses, so I'm hoping you could just kind of without having to explain them in detail.
The first one is for us is going to be I'd say foreign exchange is a big one for us at the moment. I'd say supply chain would be the second. And to a lesser extent, I would say retaining talent.
Okay. And then Ms. Waters?
Yeah, thank you. I would say, for the companies that we work with, strength of the dollar is a barrier right now. Workforce considerations are very real for our small businesses, and ongoing supply chain disruption and uncertainty about where the next disruption might come from are at the top of our list.
Thank you. Mr. Speer?
Thank you so much. Echoing both of the first 2 witnesses, what I would add to that is the The companies we're looking at right now are really, really, really young and new to exporting. And so at the moment, when we have a conversation about supporting their export activities, they've not fully fleshed out what their own export activities are. And so if we could have a way to get them further educated and then layer possible financing on top of it, that would move that conversation along really, really quickly.
So the top three issues that you've got is education of your workforce and financing?
Actually, more education just on the aspects that there's a market beyond the 21 counties of New Jersey and the United States of America.
All right, Mr. Tux?
Unless you go into e-commerce, you can't be home based and be a retailer.
Mr. Tux?
Let me unmute right quick.
There you go.
Two things. Number one, the ingredients cost. We have to source our ingredients. Our products are made through a manufacturer, and they're experiencing cost of ingredients. And I think a lot of it has to do with transportation. But the second thing would be our cost for moving our products here in the U.S., but just as much across the borders of Mexico and Canada. So increased transportation costs have a direct impact on our ability to grow and to, it's also have a negative effect on shrinking our margin because we can't go to pass on all of those costs.
All right, thank you very much. I yield back.
Thank you. The gentlewoman yields back. Again, thank you all for joining us today. Thank you to our witnesses for taking the time, and thank you to our committee members. Expanding into international markets can definitely boost small businesses across the country and grow the American economy. And given these benefits, we have to make sure that it's as easy and manageable as possible for small businesses to be able to sell their products abroad. We've heard extensively from our witnesses today about the unique challenges that exporting presents for small firms. And by advancing policies that address these concerns, we can certainly alleviate some of these obstacles and ensure that American small businesses have a place in the global economy. I'm looking forward to collaborating with my colleagues on the committee as we reauthorize the STEP program so that we can better serve entrepreneurs. Without objection, members have 5 legislative days to submit statements and supporting materials for the record. And if there's no further business to come before the committee, without objection, we are adjourned.